Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Suleman. Thank you so much for joining us today at Jugnu Junction. I think it's been more than 6 years since I've known you as a teacher, as a mentor, and also work on some industrial projects with you. You're one of the very few people in academics who's working on the cutting edge technology to link academia and industry in the space of user experience and product strategy. I think you can start by you sharing your journey briefly with the audience, and then we can take it forward.
Thank you very much, Anam. Thank you for having me in this wonderful office, and it's my pleasure. I'll not go back. I think I'll start from my education in Germany. After a couple of years of working in Pakistan, I moved to Germany for my master's, and I was doing a computer science degree there. And in one of my classes, one of my very good professors showed us a book on the big screen. And the book was from Christopher Alexander. It was on pattern language, and it was really about solving complex problems with a pattern language approach, and it was really about architecture. And I think almost every good student or every student of architecture would have read that book because it's a classical book, and I think the most read a book on this topic. And when I read that book, it was really about design. It was about thinking about technology, urban planning, architecture, and problem solving. And I loved that book. And I went to my professor. I said, I always wanted to be an architect, and now I'm in a computer science degree, and she's showing me this book. How do they relate? He said, come back to me after a couple of weeks. And I went, and he discussed that how all these things are related, and how interaction design is also all about understanding the patterns and coming up with the approach for solving problems. And that was it. That was really a shift from a hardcore computer science to a discipline, which then first became interaction design. And then when I moved to Eindhoven University for my professional doctorate in engineering, mainly in user system interaction, that is when I learned all these things in a fundamental fashion: what cognitive science is, what philosophy is, what psychology of design is, what human-centered design is. And then I worked for Philips, and that's also where I worked as a part of design and research department. So I think this all helped me to understand design as a very holistic discipline in that Western context. And then I did my PhD, and I was lucky that I was a part of humanities school doing my PhD on social psychology, computer science, artificial intelligence. And that gave me a very good understanding of how to understand people, in different contexts. And then I worked there, and then I moved to Pakistan and started my journey at LUMS. And all that knowledge really helped me because I had a very different lens of understanding this design discipline. And then I tried to sort of apply that in Pakistani context, and I was completely naive here because almost nothing worked. What you have learned there, it doesn't really work in the way the books normally fail. And I started my own design lab. You were a part of that, one of the early adopters of that shift at LUMS from where in CS department, we had a systematic program through 3 courses of introducing computer science students to design. And while working with industry, and when I started UX Pakistan with some colleagues, we learned that CS students are a very good fit. Actually, LUMS students are a very good fit because the way LUMS offer its core curriculum and also this very learning without borders framework that CS students can take a course in philosophy and psychology and English literature and economics and data-driven marketing and law, and it exposes you to this whole idea of problem solving in a very holistic fashion. So if you can add on the top of this layer of problem solving through design, I think you can bring a big change. And being CS computer scientists are in a much better position because if you know technology, then you're a very good fit for a startup space anyways. So I think there was a very good fusion, and thankfully we have very, very good students coming out of LUMS and who are doing a wonderful job. And one is sitting in front of me, so I'm very happy about it.
I remember back in 2016, I think a lot of credit goes to you for introducing HCI, product design, as a field in Pakistan. But it's just recently, in the past 2-3 years, with the rise of startup, that this field has actually started to evolve as a career path. How have you seen this field evolve, the field of product design, product management, evolve in the last 3 years with the rise of startup culture in Pakistan?
I think when you look at product design, it's not a new phenomenon, and it has made different rounds all over the world, and the whole idea what a product is a very confused definition. I'm at LUMS, I'm a part of an online learning platform, so my course is also a product, and this cup is also a product, and the Jugnu product is also a product, which is a very big product. Sales flow is also a product, but it's a very big product, and the product idea from the last 80, 100 years have shaped. It started in manufacturing. It actually started at FMCGs, where I remember reading an article a long time ago where the CEO or head of Procter & Gamble introduced this concept of brand men. And they were the one who were the custodians of a brand, and they'll make sure that there are good sales, the brand is well respected, and there is a whole system that how would you promote brand, and then how would you be customer centric in terms of your branding. And one of the things he said was that you have to do field testing to be able to understand the needs of the customer and build a brand around that. So it's not a new phenomenon, like I must be 100 years old or 90 years old, 80 years old. And then, this whole idea of brand men converted into manufacturing and FMCGs, where usually the marketing team was the custodian of a brand. They were the ones कि हमें पता है कि हमने कैसे इसको प्रेजेंट करना है. उनका काम था कि अच्छी प्रोडक्ट अच्छे पैसों पे सही मार्केट में सही वक्त पे बिक जाए. And that's how the whole concept product evolved. लेकिन जब branding and then costing and commodity and all those things were a part of marketing team. But then जब ये revolution आया, startup revolution आया, and खास तौर पे valley के अंदर भी, so this whole concept of agile came in, the whole concept of working together came in, and then this bridge was very, very important because technology में product तो वो नहीं है, physical product तो नहीं है, आपने जाके shelf पे तो नहीं लगानी है. जब अपने shelf पे नहीं लगानी है, so the whole definition of product changed. When that changed, the marketing and the design and the development, they all came together. And then we have this very interesting new definition, not written in a book, but we all know it's intersection of business, design, and technology. Three things are very, very important. And you can't say कि marketing का बंदा या business का बंदा बाहर बैठेगा और बाकी काम करेंगे. In Pakistan, in the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen that a very strong technical manager became a product manager, and he or she didn't pay attention to the design part. Or a very strong person with a business background became a product manager, and उन्होंने बोला कि हमें सब कुछ पता है, हमने बेचना है, and they didn't pay attention to the technology part. The effectiveness, efficiency, कोई उस पर तवज्जो नहीं दी. And slowly and steadily, startups ने जिन्होंने पैसे raise किए, they understood कि product manager would be a holistic thing. You can come from any background, you can come from business, you can come from technology, you can come from design, but you have to have this exposure that you have to understand the business, you have to understand the technology, and then you have to understand the design to be able to be a good product manager. And as a designer, we always talk about empathy, but sometimes we show the least amount of empathy to other discipline. Because हमें लगता ही है कि हमने design की बात करनी है और design is the only way which can solve problem, but that's completely wrong. A great design without good technology and a good business model is a complete failure. In a similar fashion, an excellent business model with a slow technology is just not going to work. Yeah. So I think हमने पाकिस्तान के अंदर अब मुझे लगता ये है कि people who either started their journey 5-7 साल पहले through a lot of iterations by switching at least 5 startups, and getting a pay raise of 10x in the last few years, they are at a position जहाँ पे वो बात कर सकते हैं कि यार हमें समझ आ गई है कि अब हमने क्या नहीं करना. I still don't know that everybody knows क्या करना है, but I think that's a good learning. कौन सी गलतियाँ repeat नहीं करनी है. So I think in this way, and especially people who came, who went abroad, did their degrees, spent a couple of years in the valley or other places, they are shaping it. And then now my last comment on that is founders used to be the best product owners and managers because वो बड़ा proud लेते हैं कि हमने custodian है product के. Again, most of them have seen the world outside Pakistan. They worked for different sectors. They come in, they have a very good understanding of the product. And then they, Jugnu की example भी आपके सामने ही है. Like I've met a couple of people, the owners and the CEO and the management team. And they have a very good vision about the product. And they understand this triangle very well just because they have this experience. Yeah. So I think founder influence, the right team slowly coming together, it is changing Pakistan ka product landscape, and you will see in the next 5-7 years, the products we'll produce here would be of excellent. They're already of excellent quality, but this will dramatically shift also in the coming years, and the degree programs are also shifting towards that.
Yeah, that was coming to that as the next point. Okay, we know that we need the intersection of business, marketing, and like tech. Do you think the academia is up to speed with that? And is the academia providing the platforms? कि आपके like people coming out of the college, they don't have to experiment in the industry to learn these things, and they're learning this while while in their universities and in their curriculums.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think हम we are also ourselves to blame for that. लेकिन there's a little bit of bias me sitting here as a as a partner in a design firm Designist, but also as a faculty member at LUMS that LUMS did try, and a couple of other units did try to sort of offer that framework through which we can be industry ready. लेकिन ये बहुत नया फिनोमेना है, लोगों को समझ ही नहीं आती है. एक प्रोडक्ट को समझना टेक्नोलॉजी सेक्टर के अंदर बहुत फ़र्क है एक चॉकलेट को समझना या एक सीरियल को समझना या ऑलपर्ट्स के दूध के पैकेट को समझना या चाय की पत्ती को समझना. वो बहुत फ़र्क है. उसमें टेक्नोलॉजी कोई और है, इसमें बहुत फास्ट मूविंग है. वो फास्ट मूविंग गुड्स थिंग, ये फास्ट मूविंग बिल्कुल डिफरेंट किस्म का फास्ट मूविंग है. सो आई थिंक हमारी बिजनेस कम्युनिटी वॉज नॉट रेडी टू अंडरस्टैंड how to work with technology. And tech was just tech, engineers, जैसे हम लोग हैं, we think in a very different way. But I think now LUMS ने for example 6 प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट किए हैं जिसके अंदर हमारा फोकस इंडस्ट्री का है. NUST is also taking a lead. IB is trying a lot कि आप कैसे इसको इंटरवीन करें. So I think slowly we are going in that direction. लेकिन it will take time. देखें, हम जब मैंने सॉफ्टवेयर इंडस्ट्री में काम स्टार्ट किया था हमें डिज़ाइन स्पेसिफिकेशन डॉक्यूमेंट बाहर से आता था, तो वो हमें कहते थे आपने सोचना नहीं है, ये जो लिखा हुआ है इसको कोड करके वापस भेज दें. आई रिमेंबर वी वर्कड ऑन अ प्रोजेक्ट विद फोर्ड मोटर्स. आई वाज फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट एंड हमारे पास जो डिज़ाइन स्पेसिफिकेशन आई वो 1000 सफ़े की थी. मैं अपने प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर के पास गया, मैंने कहा यार कैन आई थिंक? वी सेड नो यू कांट थिंक. एग्जैक्टली पिक्सल बाय पिक्सल. मैंने कहा कुछ काम गलत हुआ है, यू आर नॉट अलाउड टू थिंक. वो कॉन्सेप्ट वही था, डिज़ाइन इन कैलिफोर्निया एंड मेड इन चाइना, वो वाला कॉन्सेप्ट था. But now, alhamdulillah, Pakistan ke andar, there are good software companies who can think, who can design great products. I think the same thing will happen when we think of a very complex phenomenon of a product, and uspe bhi we will be able to do a good job. And in this, in academia, have no option because अब obsolete हो जाएंगे. अगर हमारे बच्चों को नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी, that's the best metric that आपकी placement कहाँ पे है. So I think universities have thought about it, and अब तो बहुत push आ रहा है इंडस्ट्री की तरफ से भी. पर इंडस्ट्री भी इज़ नॉट विलिंग टू स्पेंड द डॉलर. हमारी वाली इंडस्ट्री तो नहीं है कि अब बिलियन डॉलर के इंडोमेंट्स हैं. सो आई थिंक वो दोनों तरफ से मसले हैं, लेकिन आई एम प्रीटी कॉन्फिडेंट कोई और ऑप्शन है ही नहीं.
Agreed. I think I'll pick up on your point of design in California, made in Pakistan वाली जो चीज़ है. Shifting gears a bit, when you're making for Pakistan in Pakistan, design in California wale jo laws hai, jo strategy hai, that really doesn't apply here. Like talking about retail, I think you have also worked in projects with Kirana store owners, small business owners. The principles that we read in the books, जो textbook phenomena होते हैं, that really fail here. मतलब वो चीज़ें नहीं चलती यहाँ पे. So how do you think is it different for making it for this kind of a user, which is like talking about retail, small Kirana owners, versus if you're making for B2C customers or people like us designing for them? So what are the differences that you feel?
I think there's a lot. पहली चीज़ तो मैं fully agree कि किताब फेल हो जाती है और बड़े पुरसकून तरीके से फेल होती है. You open a methodology. आप सिंपल एग्जांपल ले लें कि आपका 101 क्या है कि जब आप किसी का इंटरव्यू करते हैं आप उससे कॉन्सेंट फॉर्म साइन करवाते हैं. द होल आइडिया ऑफ कॉन्सेंट कि मैं विलिंगली बता रहा हूँ कि आई एम बीइंग रिकॉर्डेड और मेरे डेटा का ये इस्तेमाल हो सकता है. पीपल डोंट गेट इट. आप जिसकी मर्जी ऑडियो रिकॉर्डिंग कर लें. आप हम उठते हैं, आप माइक पकड़ते हैं हाथ में, 10 सवाल पूछते हैं, साथ ऑडियो टेप बड़ा होता है, and there is no consent. Can you imagine conducting a research? 6 महीने तो IRB में लग जाते हैं, 3 महीने बच्चों के साथ लोगों ने प्रोडक्ट बनानी है. आप इतना मुश्किल काम है. सो आई थिंक ब्लेसिंग भी है कि वो EU के रूल्स अप्लाई नहीं होते, तो यू कैन गेट अवे विद लॉट ऑफ दीज थिंग्स. बट उसका नुकसान ये है कि the systems they have developed, after a lot of refinement, are not going to work in this context. And same for methodology. अब किताब बात करती है कि आपने context को जाके study करना है, and context को study करना पाकिस्तान के अंदर 10 दफ़ा आपकी अपॉइंटमेंट फेल हो जाती है. आप जाते हैं, गर्मी बहुत ज़्यादा है, लोड शेडिंग हो गई है, उसके पास ग्राहक आ गया है, 1000 उसके मसले हैं, उस दुकान पर लड़ाई हो गई है. All those things, how would you act and appreciate this whole environment? So I think what we really need to do, and something I've been telling again and again, on every forum while working with colleagues, and we all agree with this phenomena, that we need new rules of the game for the local context. There's a lot we can learn from India and Africa and from Bangladesh and from this region. But again, there's a lot which has to be, thought in this local context. And अगर हम वो नहीं करते तो उसका नुकसान ये होता है कि आपके पास आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग बहुत वेरी हो जाती है. एंड देन एक और चीज़ जो I spend a lot of my time in Netherlands. It's a very homogeneous population. Literacy level, tech penetration, it's very homogeneous. आप पाकिस्तान के अंदर आप कराची शहर is a complete country. एक अलग मुल्क है. अब यहाँ से DHA से उठते हैं, आप 3 सड़क पार जाते हैं, यहाँ का किराना स्टोर, वहाँ का ज़मीन आसमान का फ़र्क है. उसके पास जो लोग आ रहे हैं, ज़मीन आसमान का फ़र्क है. And then what you do, आपकी book would tell you कि if you have 100 users, if you collect their data, you can make a mental model and propose a solution. How would you do that in Karachi? How would you just cannot have an interview on this street and an interview on that street and put the data together and say we have this insight. It is a wrong insight. And then, so I think what we really need, or what we all trying to do, all these companies, is to really be very careful and thinking about this methodology. कि यार हम कब ये कह सकते हैं we're confident कि this is the right amount of data to move forward, and वो आपको किताब से पता नहीं चलने वाला. अब नई किताबें लिख रहे हैं उससे पता चलेगा, but I think, and it's fine, दुनिया में हर जगह ऐसा ही होता है, and so some people call it decolonization, whatever you call it, it's a different world.
But even if you see in Pakistan, like over the years, even your Kiryana store owner has evolved a lot. ठीक है, जो पहले जनरेशन सी, मतलब जो जनरेशनल पीछे से सक्सीड करते आ रहे हैं, जो बाबा जी थे, उनका इज वेरी डिफरेंट. बट अब जो उनके बेटे बैठे हुए हैं, मतलब दे आर वेरी डिफरेंट. मतलब दे लिसन टू यू, दे आर मोर प्रोन टू टेक्नोलॉजी, दे आर मोर विलिंग टू एक्सेप्ट. बट with the recent advancements in, for example, social media, with the advancement of TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, a lot of these people starting to use these technologies, how do you think that these mainstream technologies have evolved how we design UX for these people, or how these new technologies impact how we design UX for these people?
I think the first thing is that we have to understand what these technologies are. Very often ab meri example lein, ab when I've opened the TikTok for the first time, it was on my face. भाई हो क्या रहा है, ये क्या इंटरफेस है. एवरी पॉसिबल गाइडलाइन जो कि ह्यूमन इंटरफेस ने दी होगी एप्पल ने, वो फेल हो जाती है. राइट, कंटेंट को ऐसे नहीं आना चाहिए, टेक्स्ट ओवरले नहीं होना चाहिए, मेन्यू सिस्टम क्लियर होना चाहिए, आइकन्स ऐसे, नथिंग. वो आपके सॉन्ग के ऊपर एक 50 साल का बंदा डांस कर रहा है और आप नया स्क्रॉल करते हैं. It's a very different world,
but it works for them.
Exactly, so it works for them. That's the whole idea. And then you look at Snapchat. I opened the first time. I tried to use it. I couldn't, and I stopped it. But when as a designer, you go back and you ask this fundamental question: "ये क्यों हुआ?" And then you understand कि अच्छा Snapchat क्यों बनी? What job it is trying to do? It is first creation, then consumption. That's why camera opening makes sense. In the case of TikTok, let's say consumption and creation go hand in hand. That's why a very specific interface would make sense. And then also we think it's a very overwhelming design, but we have an understanding of design from minimalism from Western point of view. East was never minimalistic.
Yeah.
If you look at Japanese पूरे का पूरा design, आप example ले लें, आप Yahoo को, पुराना Yahoo देखें जो कि US UK में चलता है, और Yahoo को जापान को देखें. Yahoo जापान लगता ही है कि भर गया पूरे का पूरा. इतना कुछ हो रहा है, and they are able to browse these things very well. So maybe the Asian design phenomena of where mobile first approach, which is not a transfer from desktop to mobile phone, but rather thinking newly from mobile first approach, is the way to go about it. And so that's a fundamental thing for us to learn. And we have to unlearn and relearn ourselves so that we understand this phenomenon. And then we say, अच्छा अब हम इसको कैसे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं in our favor. For example, TikTok का style can be excellent for designing manuals for people. And people are using that. कि आप लोग 5 मिनट की किराना स्टोर का बंदा नई शॉप ओपन की वीडियो नहीं देखना चाहता. बट इफ यू हैव 3 TikTok videos which are designed such a way, in a playful way, this may work. So you understand that, and then you design your principles around that. Same for आपने रिपोर्ट लेनी है कि आपका सिस्टम खराब हो गया है. In that case, it is first reporting and creation, then consumption. Your interface would change, and then you can take help from these interfaces. So I think these interfaces needs to be used in our favor. Can be used, are being used, instead of saying कि you know ये डिज़ाइन ठीक नहीं है या जो कि हम बहुत बहस सुनते भी रहे हैं कि अब जी प्रिंसिपल्स के खिलाफ है, मतलब it works, it just works so damn well.
But like principles se khilaf hai, and as designers,
Yeah.
how do we keep our bias aside and then think from, because when they say empathize with the user, पर आपका हमेशा bias बीच में आ जाता है कि यार नहीं सिंपल होना चाहिए, क्लीन होना चाहिए, वाइट बैकग्राउंड्स होने चाहिए, बट उसको नहीं पसंद, उसको बड़ी बड़ी तस्वीरें पसंद है, बड़ा बड़ा फॉन्ट पसंद है. It's really hard for me as a मतलब with my own different set of ideation of how what is designed for me versus designing for a user which जिसके साथ मतलब I don't agree with the design but I have to design for him. So in that scenario, how do you keep your biases aside?
देखिए आपने बड़ा ज़बरदस्त वर्ड इस्तेमाल किया, I don't agree with the design. That's not your right. You know, in a design space, that's not the conversation we are having. कि आप कितना agree करती हैं. You know, if the job is being done and the person whose job has to be done is happy, it makes us happy, you know. And I think that's the whole philosophy of putting yourself in customer's shoe, you know, and the empathy. Problem kya hai कि it comes with experience. And it's very difficult to push yourself and not to say कि मुझे ऐसा design चाहिए, and with your own biases. And the only way is practice, practice, practice. You learn, you come back, you reflect, you learn, you come back and reflect, and you will become a good designer. Problem ये है recently कि लोग हम 5 किताब पढ़ते हैं और हम समझते हैं कि हम UX designer हैं, which is fine, you know. But what we don't understand कि अगर आप, if I was a fresh graduate and if I start working for booking.com in Netherlands, you know, for a very specific audience, although I'm deliberately saying booking.com because it's a very complex product, and मुझे आप Dutch region दे देते हैं डिज़ाइन करने के लिए, मेरा सारा किताब का knowledge would map on that, and I can do a good job, and I can design my first usability study in the first 3 months, right? Because जो मैंने पढ़ा, जो audience है, सारा ऐसे map हो गया. अब मैंने वही किताबें उठाई, पाकिस्तान आया, आपको पढ़ाया, आपको मैंने कहा अब आपने जाना है किराना स्टोर के पास और जाना भी कसूर के अंदर है और छोटी दुकान पे जाना है और आपने यूजेबिलिटी टेस्टिंग डिज़ाइन करनी है. आपने सारी मेरी किताब की चीज़ें पकड़ी, टेस्टिंग के डिज़ाइन किया, उसके पास गए, उसने कहा जी कल आइएगा, ख़त्म. एंड देन आप उसने बिठाया, आप कह रहे थिंकिंग अलाउड करो, वो कह रहा है थिंकिंग अलाउड क्या करो, उसका बेटा उसकी हेल्प कर रहा है, वो कह रहा है आप करके दे दें, यू नो, द होल सिस्टम चेंजेस. सो it's a lot of practice and practice and practice which helps you to understand. And then what we are not very good at is producing knowledge which is locally appropriate, so the young designer can read that knowledge in an informal way and can learn from that. So there's a lot of, आप भी वही गलती करती हैं, सीखती हैं, आपका नेबर भी वही गलती करता है, सीखता है, and we're not producing that knowledge so that it can be brought into a decent format so that you first read that and say अब ये गलतियाँ नहीं करनी है. I think this is our responsibility.
I think I can resonate a lot with that because I followed the same path. Obviously, सारी किताबें पढ़ के आए, and जब यहाँ आए जुगनू में start किया, सब कुछ fail हो गया. I had to learn everything from the start, and this has been a beautiful journey.
Yeah.
Hey, so what do you think are the future prospects for people or students or new younger generation coming in this field for them in Pakistan or abroad, generally for product design and strategy?
I think if you take this bigger and broader definition of product, where you know FMCG की अपनी product है, आपके पास startup ecosystem की अपनी product है, there's a lot of it's only going to grow, you know. First of all, हमारी अपनी local requirement बहुत ज़्यादा होगी, but also we in the freelancing industry can do a very good job with the right skill set. And what really my friends who will be listening me, लम्स के या लम्स के बाहर जहाँ से भी, you don't need to be a computer scientist, and you don't need to have a marketing background. You don't need to have a particular background to be able to be a very successful person in product design. You know, you can come from a very different background. I have seen some students with econ की background के साथ doing excellent job in product design. Students with accounting and finance doing an excellent job. In CS, of course, is a very relevant discipline. Students who have done literally, you know, English literature and philosophy and those things. What you need to do is to have a good understanding of problem solving. And if you know that, you can build all those layers of how would you understand design, how would you understand technology, and how would you understand business, and then you can build on the top of it. But you need to be ready to learn, you know. You just cannot say कि मैं अब computer scientist हूँ तो सारी ज़िंदगी computer scientist ही रहूँगा. You cannot become a computer product designer. आपके दिमाग में ये है कि मैं computer scientist हूँ. You have to be very open to new ideas.
So what do you think is one of the biggest red flags, yeah, turn offs when we talk about designing for this kind of user, like the Kriana store owners or the non-tech savvy users?
आई थिंक दो तीन मोटी मोटी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें आप सोच सकती हैं. एक तो मैंने जो पहले बात की वो यही कि आई थिंक वी नीड टू बी वेरी केयरफुल विद द डेटा. यू नो we I cannot emphasize enough that one has to be very honest and open and up about the data, and which means कि you cannot fuse data randomly कि 15 लोग लाहौर में इंटरव्यू किए, 15 कराची में किए, 2 हैदराबाद में किए, जी हाँ बस 30 लोगों का डेटा आ गया, ये इंसाइट्स हैं और हम ऐप बनाने जा रहे हैं और इंशाल्लाह ताला अल्लाह ताला ने हिम्मत ताकत दी तो चलेगी. It's just not going to work. And you have to be hyper local in your approach in getting the data. So I think research key methodology has to be well defined. Second, I think is very important that all big companies working in that have mentors who can support, the young, energetic designers. And why I call it red flag, because when you give them a lot of liberty, a product owner or a founder would see that the learning curve is going to be much higher. You can save a lot of money because you think we're very expensive, but then uska nuksan ye hai, you're going to save a lot of money because by investing early in the process. So I think having the right mentorship so that people can tell you कि आपने बेसिक चीज़ें टेस्टिंग कैसे करनी है, रिसर्च में सवाल कौन से पूछने हैं, कौन सा सवाल पहले आएगा, कौन सा बाद में आएगा, कहाँ पे ना का सवाल है, कहाँ पे हाँ का सवाल है, कहाँ पे आपके मल्टीपल आएंगे, कहाँ पे नहीं आएंगे, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. एंड सीनियर डिज़ाइनर जो पाकिस्तान में कम हैं लेकिन हैं, दे आर वर्किंग इन स्टार्टअप्स, डिज़ाइन फर्म्स के अंदर जो कि बहुत ज़बरदस्त काम कर रहे हैं. सो आई थिंक उनका होना भी बहुत ज़रूरी है डिज़ाइन मेंटरशिप का. और तीसरी चीज़ मेरे ख्याल में बहुत बड़ा रेड फ्लैग ये है कि because we feel that we can approach these people in whatever way we like and however we like, we just bulldoze the whole process. हम उस process की respect ही नहीं करते. Or again, you might be able to get insights quicker, but they might not be valuable. So if you want to value, a person like you might find it very, very hard to convince कि यार इसमें 5 दिन लगेंगे ही लगेंगे. There is no way I can do these things in 2 days. Please don't push me. And marketing वाला बंदा कहेगा यार मैं तो 3 दिन में जाके पूरी का पूरा स्टोर स्टडी कर लेता हूँ. You say it doesn't work in our field in this way. So I think ये 2-3 चीज़ें हैं. Again, be very careful with the data, have the right mentorship, be mindful of the process, and then be very collaborative. And then you're actually having a good product and good relationship with the user.
Thank you so much. I think that brings us to the end of the conversation. We have a small rapid fire round. So who is your design hero?
Design hero? Good question. I think Dieter Rams, the German designer, I really like the work he has done. Karim Rashid, I also really like the work, mainly from industrial design. Yeah, I think these two would be, and I think Norman, I would say he's not a designer, but I think that book really changed. That book really changed. So I think it would be unfair not to name him, not to name him at this stage, because I read every word he has written. I can say that every word, जहाँ मुझे मिला मैंने पढ़ा है, I love that.
Right. So based on all the design principles we just talked about, what is your favorite app and why?
I think it has changed over time. It keeps on changing. But currently, I like Headspace. I think it's a very interesting combination of right amount of persuasion, right amount of science and pseudoscience, and good user interface principles. So I think they have done a good job. So there are many. They have really brought forward this revolution, how to sort of focus on well-being meditation in a very scientific way. I don't think it's complete science. There's also a little bit of pseudoscience, and there's a bit of, but it's a good combination of persuasion. I also think TikTok has done a phenomenal job. I don't understand it. I think I'm too old for that, but phenomenal. It's unbelievable that anybody.
Yeah, the impact that it created is.
I have no words to explain that impact. Yeah.
What is the one quality every product designer should have?
Listen. And listen. I think if you cannot be a good product designer if you're not looking and listening, and 70% you should listen and then say something, and this will change, the whole.
Can't agree more. I think what's the one book that you can return to time again?
I think there was this universal principle of design, and that's a very interesting book. I like to open and go back. I have to go back to design of everyday things every year because of my class, and I still like it very much. I think that's a very good book, which has really helped me. But yeah, as a textbook, yeah, it's changing a lot now. And हर साल अब तो जब मैं पढ़ा करता था उस वक्त तो 5 किताबें थी, अब तो 500 हैं. So I think things have changed. Yeah.
And lastly, what's the one skill that you would like to pick up?
One skill I like to pick up. I think it is extremely important at this how to be a good leader. And very often one feel that leadership is by birth. You know, you're born leader, and I can't disagree more with that. And I think leadership is a skill which is complete science. You can acquire it, you can learn it, you can practice it in a systematic way. So I think if you want to be a good leader, you know, you have to take a very deliberate path of becoming a leader. You know, and I think I would love to understand how good leaders work, how do they behave, what have they done, and if I can follow some of that paths, that'll be amazing.
Great. I think thank you so much for joining us, for coming all the way, and I think it has been great conversation. I've always enjoyed having conversations with you, and I'm sure audience can pick up a lot from this. So
Thank you very
thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Lovely being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.